Hello everyone, I'm Polly and today we're working on a huge area on my fall Japanese inspired island. Today I'm working on the entrance of the island and pretty much the whole right bottom corner of the island. We will have a kind of a transportation center. Like we have the airport right here, really close to the resident services, so I decided to transform the resident services into a train station. And so anyone that visits Yuka can either, travel by airplane, of course, or by train, or even by bus. There will be a little bus stop on this area as well. So this is basically the area where you can pretty much pick and choose what type of transportation you want to have while you're visiting Yuka. And I'm not sure if that's something common in Japan, if this like transportation center kind of places exist there, but here where I live, it's pretty common to have like an area where all transportation methods gather, and there's always a lot of people there traveling and all that good stuff. So these train tracks are going to connect Yuka Village, that is in the small town bigger than Kaede Village that I worked on last week, and it connects to Kaede Village and also to the onsen that's going to be on the right top corner of the island. And of course that a transportation center kind of place needs to have some commerce around it. So I decided to transform Greta's house into a restaurant where she has some delicious meals. In the restaurant, where when I decorated the inside, there will only be sushi and ramen, but in my mind she's kind of a traveled kind of gal, and she is actually pretty good at cooking meals from multiple Asian countries. So, if she decides to do any other kind of traditional food, if you're really wanting something specific, she probably make you, it's that kind of vibe. But we're still working on the train station area. There's only one track because it's such a small place that I feel like it doesn't need two tracks. It's the same train going back and forth the whole time, I'm not sure where I'm going to include the train itself. I want to have a train, but I still haven't decided where specifically I'm going to have it. It's probably going to block some area that I don't want you to access, so I guess that I will leave it towards the end, like the choosing of the right spot for the train. But as you can see on the both sides of the resident services, we have some sidewalk, and this side is where Greta's restaurant will be, and on the other side I was able to fit the Able sisters, and I didn't really know where to put them. So I'm happy that I was able to, solve that problem right at the beginning of the island. I know this is like the 4th speed build that I have on this island, but I mean, there's still a lot of island that needs to be finished. Pretty much the whole bottom part of the island is done, except the little forest in front of Kaede Village, and also the left top corner of the island is also completed. So we just have to work basically on the back part of the island at this point, and the right top corner as well. I mean, it's still on the back of the island, right? But like the middle and the back of the island, pretty much. There's going to be a little parking lot there, just so, you know, maybe the residents of Yuka are also traveling and they need to, you know, park near the transportation center. And I just, for safety reasons, have fencing surrounding the train tracks, so the villagers hopefully won't walk there because it's not the safest spot to be walking around. Of course, that they don't know, right? They don't care. They walk around wherever they feel like it. But, you know, at least the visitors know that you're not supposed to walk on the train tracks. You can if there's no train passing by, but it's a little dangerous. But yeah, I didn't do anything behind the resident services because I'm not really sure at this point what I'm going to do there. And I don't know if I'm going to work on that area next week or if I'll work on the onsen next week. I don't want to run out of space. You know, that is partially why I started by the temple and mountain area, because I wasn't really sure how much space I was going to need for that. I always think that the island is smaller than it actually is, so I usually end up with some empty space even if I plan my islands, because for some reason, you know, I don't know, I'm bad with measurements, I guess. But here we have the outside of Greta's restaurant. As you can see, she has some ramen outside for the travelers that don't really have time to go inside and enjoy their meal. They can eat it just right outside. And I think it's a really cute restaurant. It's not my first restaurant and it's not like my best restaurant ever. I may go back to these interiors because I felt like I still needed some items that I didn't have. So I will probably go back and tweak some little details. But for now, they work. I mean, I have a pretty good base to, if I want to work from there, you know, the aesthetic is there, the idea is there. So I will only have to add some details or change a few things to get it like closer to the vision that I had for the build. And you know, I don't have the vertical part of the train tracks. I only have the horizontal ones. So I decided that the train was going inside a tunnel, and I will build on that. I will extend the cliff and I will have stuff going on up there, just not today. You know, I couldn't think of some stuff to do. And I mean, I'm working on a huge area today. This build was way bigger than I was first expecting, because I was only going to work on the transportation center part of this build. I wasn't going to work on beaches or anything else. I wasn't really going to add parks or crackles convenience store. But, you know, I was feeling inspired. I was feeling motivated to work on the island. So, yeah, it's not always that happens. So I just kept going. But I did put some stairs here just so I could, you know, organize this area a little bit better. It's such a small area, but I feel like I was able to include a lot of stuff still. But yeah, the beaches are very simply, I mean, they're not simply decorated at all, but like they're not anything special. That's what I mean. I have some deck and some stone path. I think the stone path I only used on the other side, but you know, I never really know what to do with my beaches, so I usually make them like little ports or stuff like that. I don't give too much thought to it. I just start adding random stuff that I feel like fits good enough, And this port kind of area isn't necessarily related to Spork's konbini store. It's just, a decoration for the beach. In my head, I wanted Spork to be like a guy that makes canned goods or like pickles and jams, conserves, in general. But for decoration inside, there's not a lot to work with. So I put little hints on the exterior part of the build. Like there's some jarred goodies pretty much everywhere around this area, and inside is just a normal convenience store. But he has that little hobby that if you haven't watched me building this island and this video specifically, you won't know. But if you're watching, that's kind of the deal. And just a very simple beach in terms of concept. I really forced myself to decorate these beaches. I don't always do that. So for me, having that decoration is like a big step into, having beaches decorated. And now we're working on the left side of this build. I was also not going to work on this area, to be completely honest with you, but like I said, the inspiration kicked in and I kept going. I actually worked on this area for 3 days. I usually work on each area like 1 day and a half at most, But this build actually took me 3 days to complete because it's such a big area, and I also, I kept running out of stuff to decorate with. So there's a lot of time traveling back and forth, but I think it's worth it. At least this whole area is done and I don't have to think about it later. I also connected Yuka Village to Kaede Village. This was literally autopilot. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to connect both villages. So I just started working, just started putting stuff down, put a path down and see where I went from there. I extended just a tiny bit in the train platform, and again, using a lot of fences because I didn't know how to separate the two spaces, and this is going to be a little forested area because I feel like forested areas make the builds look further apart. So, I didn't want Kaede Village to feel like it's right next to a bigger village or town, So having a little forested area separating both villagers, I felt like it was the best solution for this area. And I don't know if I'll change a little the river shape situation. It's very straight down, and I don't know if I like that, but also I don't know if you'll be able to tell that much because the left side of the beach will be blocked. It wasn't even intentional. It just happened. And I was like, you know what? It happened, and now it's how it is, Also, the museum is super close to the water. When I put the museum down, I didn't have a lot of space to put it anywhere on the beaches. I didn't know what I was going to do with the museum. I didn't know if I was going to have it on a building or not. So, safest choice is putting it on the beach and pretend like there's something going on, either some science stuff or, again, sport stuff. I don't know, there's a deck, there's fish all around. I'm not really sure what Blathers is doing on this area. Maybe he's working like with the seal life, but I don't know. You gotta ask him, when I release the DA, you come here, you ask him yourself, because I couldn't care enough to go ask him. But I just added some yachts, and I really like how the pine trees look on the beach. I also did that in Toshinaka, and I don't know, I feel like it's a pop of green. I feel like the stones around it also look good with the other stones that I use on the beaches. I like to use the stone items on the beaches because of the stones that they have originally, like the stones that are integrated from the start. I don't know. And I think it looks cute. I also like to use those stone ponds. At this time, I'm using the maple stone ponds, of course, because maples, in terms of colors and theme and all that, it makes more sense. But I feel like they look like stones that maybe it was raining or there were like bigger waves, so they have like little ponds on top of them, but they're not like supposed to be ponds. They're supposed to be just like any other rock on the beach. You know what I mean? I feel like it looks cute, and I feel like it looks natural. And for my beaches, I like to make them look natural. I'm going a little bit all in on these beaches, but I usually just put some flowers and weeds and call it a day. I mean, if I have something going on the beach, like the museum, for example, I will decorate it. And because I wanted this whole area to be decorated, I decorated it a little bit more. But if the beach is blocked, for example, I will just put some weeds and flowers, and depending on the theme, maybe a palm tree also fits. On a Japanese island, I feel like it doesn't really fit, but that's why I don't use it, right? So here we have Greta's restaurant. I'm working on the inside, and in my head, Greta is kind of an old lady, so maybe she kind of had a more sophisticated and fancier restaurant. But as the years went by, she's kind of getting tired, And then they built the whole transportation center right next to her little restaurant, and there's always a bunch of people coming by. She doesn't really have time to make things pretty, and also people kept asking her to have more fast, friendly eater stuff. So that's why I also included those singular tables that I'm not really sure what they called. So people can just come by, look at the menu, eat and leave. If, for example, the outside counter is full, people don't always want to sit on a table and have a meal. So I decided to make it look a little bit more like it's more convenience and then a big fancy restaurant. But I still really like how intimate it feels with the lack of light. Maybe I'll put some more light in the future, to be honest. It's looking a little dark. And here we have Sporks / Crackles. I think it's Crackle. Convenience store. Fun fact, when I was villager hunting for Spork, he showed up and then it was called Crackle, and I was so confused. And I had to look it up. Like, maybe it's not a villager that I'm looking for. Sometimes I think it's a villager and then I start talking to them and realize it's not the right villager. But turns out he has 2 names depending on where you're playing the game. I don't know. I still call him Spork, even though in my game it's not called Spork, but what can I do? And like I said, there's a lot of canned goods still, you know, the little store shelves is that what they're called? They have some canned goods on top, and I also added some on the counter. And this is the build where I felt like I really didn't have the necessary things, especially for the walls. So I will definitely get the right things and come back to this house, and add a few more things just so it corresponds to the vision that I had for it, you know. But here it is, super small, a little bit messy, but you know, Spork's a messy boy. And here we have the final result. I really like how this area turned out, honestly. I didn't know what to expect because I only had this idea. I didn't really have a vision for it, but I'm really glad with the result. And I feel like it's a good start for Yuka Village. It definitely feels bigger, looks bigger, and the other beaches will probably be just like this one. Maybe a little simpler than these beaches. But yes, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's speed build. I hope you're enjoying this island in general. Let me know in the comments what you think and what kind of builds you'd like to see in Yuka Village, because we have some freedom with the villager interiors. So if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you haven't watched the other speed builds on this island, this is not the first one, so here's a playlist with the other speed builds. And thank you so much for being here today with me and for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!